It seems ludicrous, yet here we are. It may be reality. We're going to lay out the evidence for you. Today, folks, we're talking about the Walt Disney Company, the fact that they purchased a major polling aggregator, fired the leadership, then curated the pollsters who are allowed to be in it, perhaps in ways that are scurrilous at best. Folks, there is a major chance here that Disney, whether wittingly or unwittingly, is impacting the polls, manipulating national perceptions. Hello, folks, and welcome back. Yeah, the title's kind of crazy, but here we are, and by the end, we'll let you decide whether or not you think we're on the up and up. Folks, we think we are, and we're happy to bring you this information today. It looks to us like there's a possibility that Disney, behind the scenes, has been making some efforts to make those polls and those aggregates of polls look as best they can for their buddies. Joining us today is our buddy, Kocho Casino. Welcome, buddy.
Hey, well, thanks for having me, and it's great to see you, buddy.
Kocho, I have the, you remember the commercial from the 80s, my buddy, my buddy.
Yeah, my buddy and me. Yeah, I've got that in there, too.
It wasn't as good as Teddy, what was that, Teddy Ruxpin? Not as good as that one, but, you know, it was next in line, I suppose.
Oh, there you
All right, Culture, we're next in line for us is a big story here, and I'm happy that you're here to cover it with us. Folks, I want to encourage you today as we get underway. Go check out the Valiant Renegade channel. He's going to be releasing clips, and he has been so kind to allow us to play some of these clips from Sunday night's show where he had Mark Mitchell, the head of polling for Rasmussen, on with him. And this is where the information came out of. We want to get to that, folks. And as we do, all we ask is that you consider clicking the like button. All right, let's get underway. And here's what we've got. All right, folks, this is FiveThirtyEight. It is a big-time website when it comes to tracking polling. And it once upon a time was the gold standard of knowing what's going on, supposedly. Run by a guy named Nate Zilver. Up until not so long ago. What are we talking about? Well, this out of the Hollywood Reporter by Alex Weprin back in April of 2023. Nate Zilver out at ABC News as Disney layoffs once again hit news division. Well, what would Nate Zilver and FiveThirtyEight have to do with ABC News or Disney? ABC News is expected to retain the FiveThirtyEight brand with plans to streamline the data-driven site. Culture, it turns out that Disney purchased FiveThirtyEight. Then they removed the guy who ran FiveThirtyEight, and then they began to do things behind the scenes that have made for the best possible outcomes for Harris and her campaign. Culture, as we get ready to dive in, do you know anything about this topic? I mean, is this something that you've been savvy to previous, and I was just the moron who did not know that this had happened? I had no idea.
Yeah, I think that I didn't internalize it in a way that it would have made it, as important as it actually turns out to be. At the time, I know I reported on it on the 6 Minute Daily, the fact that was actually happening, especially Nate Zilver. But I didn't realize to what depths this meant that they were going to fiddle with things, and it sounds like they did some fiddling.
Yes, and to give people just a brief overview of what we'll be talking about and playing in just a moment, apparently what happened behind the scenes was that once Disney had purchased this giant polling aggregate website, once they had done that, they removed the guy who was there in charge of it, who made it all run. They took it over. They, quote unquote, streamlined it. And partly what they did is at ABC, they have this ABC News Ipsos poll. Now, you might as well call it Disney. According to Mark Mitchell, though, the way that works is, let's just say less than ideal if you want to get the accurate results. They essentially, according to him, sample the same exact group over and over again, which means they can get the exact same results they want over and over again. Now, I'm not alleging they do that. We're just talking about what might theoretically come about if you decided to only poll the same people over and over again. And then additionally, Culture, what we've come to find out is that Rasmussen was removed from FiveThirtyEight. And of course, Rasmussen is one of the most accurate pollsters out there, but they've been accused of being conservative. All right, that's the overview, folks. Let's get into what we know and what we heard on the Renegade Online show Sunday night. This from Mark Mitchell.
we got thrown out of the 538 aggregate a year ago. And I will say this, he founded 538. It got bought out from underneath him. Disney ABC owns it. You guys are quite familiar with what's happening there.
Yeah.
3 weeks after they got rid of him, they came after us to try and kick us out. They came after us with a campaign to pry a lot of information out of us, which I would happily have answered, but I thought it was all a trap. And then they revealed themselves, the ideologue that's in charge of that place, revealed themselves as being politically driven. They weren't happy that we were talking with conservative outlets and that we were polling on taboo issues. And so Nate actually came out and defended us. And I was really happy that he did that, but I think his statistical model is garbage.
So you're saying that the people who were questioning you, was it this was 538 or this was Disney ABC?
So 538, I think it's kind of incestuous now. So ABC bought 538. ABC reports up to Disney. We know the close ties between ABC News and the Democrat Party and the Kamala Harris campaign.
Oh, yeah.
And they hired this guy, G. Elliott Morris, and he had one of his apparatchiks write emails to us. It's like, oh, pretty please tell us more about it. And keep in mind, they own a pollster, right? So disclosure in this case might have been proprietary data. And again, I'm very open and transparent about our methodology. But I kind of blew him off. And then he came out with this really snotty worded, we've posted the letter on our Twitter feed, but it was basically, how dare you communicate with Steve Bannon and Fox News, who are peddling fringe alt-right conspiracy theories, and how are they offering you quid pro quos to poll on their topics, and like just. And so I went on Steve Bannon and called.
Only we can do that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I went on Steve Bannon and called him a scumbag, and then I think he got yelled at by his bosses because it took him another 6 or 9 months to throw us out. And it hasn't hurt our business, and it sure has hurt their accuracy. So,
well, I was going to say, at the end of the day, your best revenge is doing the things that you guys have done the best, and that is to be as accurate as you have been. I think between you guys and I think Atlas and Trafalgar got some good history there, at least in recent years. It seems like.
By the way, can we just all take a moment, just soak it in that week after week after week, we talk about Disney, and here we are gathered together with evidence that Disney is screwing over the polling industry. Like at this point, really, if Disney's not involved in trying to sabotage plumbing across America, I'll be shocked. They're in every possible area of our nation.
It really is. And that's what, look, and it goes to, I'm going to pull this back up here. Here's the national Trump versus Harris, okay? And you're talking about, let's talk about ABC, right? ABC News, the Ipsos poll. This is let's call it the Disney poll. That's what this is. And a lot of folks out there that are regular viewers here on Valiant Renegade and on Pro's channel, readers of that Park Place, the Renegade Nation out there knows the name Dana Walden. And Dana Walden right now, who is effectively, she is the co-chairman of the television and studio system at the Walt Disney Company. The other chairman is Alan Bergman, but Bergman really oversees the movie theaters, or excuse me, the movie studios, pardon me, the Marvels, the Lucasfilms, the Pixars, the Disney Animation. Dana's co-chair to Alan is she oversees television. And of course, one of those things is ABC and ABC News. And we all know, we've talked about this before, Dana Walden, who as of right now is still the most likely candidate to succeed Bob Iger as the next CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Very good old friends with Kamala Harris. They all jogged together in that same Brentwood neighborhood and stuff like this, where Bob Iger lives and Dana Walden lives and Harris. I mean, look, so this is all.
Dana introduced that genius we just watched with that quote to Kamala, so she's the matchmaker.
It was Dana Walden that introduced Kamala and her current husband. Any case, but Mark, on the polls here, now that we've kind of set up the Disney relationship here, go ahead.
Yeah, so ABC uses the Ipsos panel. Ipsos is a market research firm. The Ipsos panel is a proprietary panel. So they have like community managers, and they have about 50,000 people, which is a pretty small subset of people, but I guess you could say it's pretty large for a panel. But the point is that they're polling the same people over and over again.
So, Culture, we want to thank Valiant Renegade for allowing us, excuse me, we want to thank Valiant Renegade for allowing us to use that clip. It's amazing, and it needs to be out there, and that's one of the reasons we're playing it today. Everybody needs to know this. let me show you this real quick, Culture, and then I'm going to let you take off with all of this. Let's take a look at how Disney's, because that's essentially what we're looking at. It's 538, but this is Disney's website. This is Disney's polling aggregate. They currently have Harris as of Monday morning up 47.9% compared to 46.9%. If we go to the Real Clear Politics polling, which uses some of these quote-unquote conservative pollsters, it's Trump up by 0.01, and that's in spite of some efforts by ABC News and others who have been coming in recently that have propped Harris up. I mean, there's ABC News. That's Disney. There's the Disney poll, Harris +3, that's brought this closer in line. Culture, I'll let you run with it. What do you think about all this that we're hearing now?
Well, I think it's disturbing. I think anybody that looks at this would think it was disturbing that a network or an entertainment organization, let's be honest, I mean, they're far broader reaching than just the networks they control, but that they have this much influence that they can actually put their thumb on that scale and move things around, despite the fact that it's not necessarily
this affects voter enthusiasm, voter turnout. It affects the betting markets. I mean, this is vast, Culture, and we're not alleging some sort of conspiracy.
No,
it's amazing to me that Disney is involved in this.
Well, I look, any type of ideology in these situations that it finds its way into a model, right? Because these are all of these things are structured off of models, algorithmically calculated to represent the likely voters that are going to show up on or before election day. And, that's why these polls are kind of structured the way they are. It's one of the reasons why you trust Rasmussen and you probably don't trust 538 anymore. Especially now that you're learning that, they definitely have a thumb on that scale. It's nice to have a good aggregator out there that assembles the polls and kind of draws from them. But the moment that you go to something that's fixed like this, that they're talking about, it's pretty easy to, select a group of people that you always want to get the right answer from.
Right.
And
so you've got your own pollster that you're aggregating with other pollsters, and you're allegedly telling the other pollsters, hey, give us the info on how you're doing what you do, or else we'll kick you out of the aggregation site.
Well, and again, I mean, the reason they want to do that is they want to understand how to go about manipulating it. See, once you understand the way that the sausage, right, the sausage is made, you then can now make your own sausage, and you can change the flavors. If you're a talented chef, you can really manipulate it and move it around and make it your own. And that's some of the other things. Is like, if that's the whole point, is to manipulate, which it sounds like was attempting to be done, if not done. And what did Mark say? He said that they are happy to be transparent about their methodology. That's valuable information. And,
right.
It may be somewhat of a trade secret. He mentioned that word, of course, and he's right to do so. But he's one of those guys that's being very forthcoming. It was an amazing get for Valiant to have him show up.
One of the best shows Valiant Renegade has ever had. It was incredible. More than 6,000 people concurrently viewing it. The numbers will explode in the after hours. I mean, it'll be tens of thousands of people, if not more, watching it. And Valiant deserves all the credit for his networking skills and. What a show. And thanks to Mark Mitchell for showing up. I hope everybody will go subscribe to Valiant. Yeah. Culture, I've got one more clip I'd like to play if that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's toss it in. Here we go. Mm-hmm. So do you have any polling regarding the confidence that the American people have in the news media overall? Do you have any of that? Because that would be an anecdote, by the way. That would be an anecdote to the dissonance that I worry about, where half the country, come election night, we hope, we pray, is going to have an answer that doesn't align with what they were expecting. And so I would rather, again, like you said, I want to blow out. And the reason I want to blow out is because I don't want blows on the street. Mm-hmm. But I would also like that.
I'll let you find that real quick, Kane.
Yeah, I would also like that people are not, at each other's throats after this. And it seems to me that the news media has made that more likely than not.
So we asked that in a couple of different ways. And let me tell you that 60% of voters think the media is the enemy of the people. And we actually, people say, oh, Project Mockingbird and it's some fringe right conspiracy theory. 64% of voters think that the media is taking talking points from our own intelligence agencies. So that's another conspiracy theory proven fact. Is this the one? Okay. Does the way most news media report about politics tend to make America more united or divided? People say divided, 80% to 10. So that's a pretty good signal about trust.
So 80% culture of the American population believes that media giants are dividing us. And I don't know, maybe you've got some idea of why they want to divide us, but tell me, why does Disney why are they perceived that way by the American people, Culture?
Well, I mean, divide and conquer is a successful strategy, and it doesn't matter where you're employing it. If you create an impression, you segment off groups, and then you call one of them the bad guy. That's the oldest game in the book. And believe me, the media organizations have been doing that. They've also been leading people into some ridiculous thought processes that we've talked about before. But if you ask why or when this started happening, it started happening a long, long time ago, and basically hit the accelerator pedal about 2013. But turning back, why would they want to do that? Well, it's just easier to control people if you have them divided off into little groups. If you keep people in little herds, you can control what information they have. And so in the media world, let's be honest, bro. Disney's losing a lot of ground in this area because people don't trust them quite as much with their entertainment and now with their information. When more and more of this gets out, I can imagine that they're not going to be people are not going to be enthused by Disney's kind of coverage of things and or the likelihood to believe them any longer.
We watched the ABC News debate. We've covered the alleged whistleblower. Mm-hmm. We've covered that while the evidence of said whistleblower never came to fruition, Disney and their representatives, like Lindsay Davis, for example, one of the moderators, came out and said a lot of the stuff that, we don't need it proven anymore. Why would we ever believe that, given the bias we saw there, where one individual was either fact-checked or interrupted 17 times in a debate, the other 0, right, where we've been told the motivation for doing so, and it's partisan, why would we ever believe that would stop at the doors of the newsroom and not go into the subsidiary that is FiveThirtyEight that Disney bought, streamlined, and then apparently, allegedly used it to influence, target, and, curate the pollsters that they like best. And let me say this too, Culture. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for the best pollsters, I've got 3. And since Rasmussen's our featured here, I'll put them at the top for now. But in no particular order. Rasmussen, Trafalgar, Atlas Intel. They're the best. They're the best in the business for accuracy. So, and Disney's putting pressure on at least one of them, maybe more. What do we not know about what's happening behind closed doors at the others? We don't. We don't yet. So, but why would it stop at the newsroom, Culture?
I wouldn't assume it would, and I don't think anybody with any kind of sound reasoning would think that it would stop there as well. I mean, everything stinks from the head down in this case, and right now on that side of the equation in news media, you have Dana Walden, who you guys keep pushing the idea that she's the de facto next Iger. I really hope that's not true. And with James Gorman,
depends on this election, Culture.
I just know that with James Gorman in place, they are more looking outside than anything else, regardless.
Okay, hold there, Culture. You've made a point that I had not even. That's brilliant. Think about this, folks, and thank you, Culture. Think about this. Dana Walden has everything to provide to Disney if Harris wins. Now, I'm not alleging that Dana Walden's involved in anything wrong. I'm just putting this out there for folks to think about. Dana Walden is the head of TV and news at Disney, okay? She's running, so ostensibly, she's running ABC News and FiveThirtyEight and all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. She has everything to give Disney as a CEO if her best friend is the president. And her best friend is Harris, to the point that she introduced Harris to her husband. Dana Walden simultaneously has had a terrible track record at Disney, and she has nothing to offer the company as a CEO if Harris doesn't win. And now James P. Gorman from Morgan Stanley has been brought in, and we believe probably to prepare the way to find external candidates. So if you're Dana Walden, and if you'd like to be the CEO of the company, there's one outcome here that makes everything okay. And it just so happens that she controls the subsidiaries that can put their thumb on the scale. Now, I am not saying that she's doing anything wrong. I'm not suggesting she's doing any of this. But what I do see, Culture, is that perhaps she's innocent, but the mechanisms that are in place appear to be lining up such that whether intentionally or unintentionally, that's happening.
I look, pushing beyond that, and again, I agree with you. We are not suggesting in any way that Dana's doing.
But you should agree with me because it was your point, and I thought it was brilliant. So I had to stop and say, "Wow,
no,
Culture!
I've
not connected these dots."
I agree with you, but I'm sorry. It seemed like the obvious thing. Regardless, we'll move into the idea.
How dare you, sir? How dare you claim that it was obvious when it was unobvious to me? Oh, yeah.
Well, oh man, I'm stepping in it this morning.
You're no longer my buddy. I'm going back to Teddy Ruxpin now.
All right, fine. I just wanted to be your buddy, your pal. But look, 538 is a mechanism that we don't even know for how much longer it'll exist. I mean, Pro, let's be honest. They've whittled this thing down. They started doing it, well, obviously before 2023, when that particular article from Hollywood Reporter came up, right? They started whittling it down before then. I have a feeling that, if this strategery does not pay off, this will not exist in its current form, if at all, or it may end up in somebody else's pocket. Because again, if you look at, Zilver's analysis of the particular, model that they're using over there, it can give you some really bad results overall, and they are really really interesting. If you read his Silver Bullet a bulletin that he posted regarding his concerns over how this new election model won't perform well. I mean, he wrote that back in July, and it's a good read. It's worth your time. And he can show you just why he believes their model is so far off that it's going to mislead a lot of people in the wrong direction. But for, Disney's purposes, that really doesn't hinder them. That actually helps.
It's a great cudgel.
Wrong. Yeah.
It's a great tool. I just, I wish these people were using a company other than Walt's. Walt seems to be as American as apple pie. That's what I was looking for. And, I just can't. I can't imagine telling Walt that this is what was going to happen to his company, and these charlatans were going to come in and manipulate it and use it for these kinds of purposes. The guy who drew Mickey Mouse on a train probably wasn't thinking, "Boy, I hope my legacy is they take my company and my mouse and they turn it into a means by which to perhaps manipulate presidential elections and polling." Boy, oh boy, that's not what he intended at all. So,
well, I would say he also didn't intend for people with, a particularly driven ideology would end up, operating his company at all levels either, Pro. But
sometimes you got to ideologically capture the good things to destroy them and bring forth your future nirvana that only exists for the highest and the bestest who deserve the utopia they'll create.
Well,
that's the thought of the yachtsman at the top.
Yeah, I have to ask you a question though, Pro. My turn.
Okay, you go.
So when we're looking at information coming out of 538, is that a grain of salt information always? Is it something that you can even slightly rely on? Is it going to be, based on the things we know and what we've learned and what Nate Silver said about this after he's gone from there? Is this information reliable in any way? Or
here's what I would say, Culture.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't matter what my assessment is. It matters how much is the influence over the country, over the electorate, over the betting markets, etc. And so by taking this, by purchasing it and then hulling it out, it's the Star Wars strategy, right? So we're in Force Awakens territory here. People don't really know it's owned by Disney, but they know the name and they know that name has cachet. And so that was what happened with Star Wars. So if Disney doesn't care if this thing exists by the time we get to The Last Jedi or the Rise of Palpatine, to use a bad analogy, if they don't care if this thing survives multiple election cycles, as long as it does what they need it to do the first election cycle that they have full ownership, then they're happy. And by the way, it seems to me that this has been purchased. Now, this is my own personal opinion, but it seems to me that they have purchased this just to have influence in this election. And then beyond that, so they're using the legacy of the name and the brand. Once that's tarnished, it's of very little use to them going forward. So do I think it's worthwhile and useful? I don't know. Does it influence the minds and the enthusiasm for voters across America? Does it influence the betting markets? Does it influence the way that the media talking heads get out there and promote stuff? Does it manipulate narratives?
Well,
sure. To some degree, sure.
But let me throw that back at you real quick. Have you seen the betting markets?
They're wonky, man. There's stuff going on there. I don't want to get into that because it gets us into weeds that we probably don't need to be.
We don't want to crawl.
But the betting, there's stuff going on there that there are trend lines that are happening without any event preceding them that just reek of stuff. Stuff, folks. There's stuff out there. Culture, you're the stuff, man. You're back into buddy status. Culture, I hope you're going to get a lot more buddies. I hope people are going to flood your channel and subscribe en masse. Tell them all about it.
You bet. Yeah, check me out over on my channel, Culture Casino, on YouTube and, of course, on other platforms as well. You can find me there giving you 1 to 3 stories a day, plus at least 1 live stream a day from there. Not to mention the fact that I get to hang out with all of my buddies, like Pro here and many others.
My buddy.
That's right. And on you can find me. You can find me also on That Game Place. That's right. We've joined forces with That Park Place and my channel and created That Game Place to talk about real video game issues, events, upcoming games. We're going to be playing some competitive live streams and, of course, giving you actual game journalism, which doesn't seem to exist anywhere in the world anymore, Pro. So I just want to say thanks for checking that channel out as well.
I hope you'll keep track of Veilguard for us, Culture. I know it's going to do so well in the coming weeks. Just so well, I'm sure. But folks, get over there and swell and make well Culture Casino's channel. We would love for you to do that. Also, help us send this out all across the fruited plains of YouTube by clicking the like button. Share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. And drop a comment right on down below. Let not your mind be wasted, for it is a wonderful thing. So join a community dialogue today. Folks, on your way out, share this out on your favorite social media platforms. And until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
Floral, it's time for you to walk the plank.
What? Why?
Cuz you haven't subscribed to WDW Pro yet. Nor bookmark thatparkplace.com on your web browser to get great articles from great contributors.
What?